Hey guys, welcome to On the Beat weekly podcast. On the Beat is all about giving young people a voice. We explore all the interesting topics that affect us in the world today. So come, listen, enjoy, and be inspired.
On the beat, on the beat.
Hi everyone, this is Brent Balfour on the Beat podcast, and I have young ladies here with me today. But before I bring them on, I want to talk about us young people. First, we love to live according to trends and brands, right? We go according to the trends of fashion, according to what's maybe selling right now, like the iPhone 12. Or we look at the brands as well. We maybe buy the latest Nike, maybe Air Max or Jordans. Or we may not favor Nike, so we might buy Adidas, right? How about the phone brands? We will look at phone brands and buy brands according to those items, and even tablets or laptops. We may not favor Chinese brands so much, even though the Chinese actually make most of these famous brands, right? For example, Nike is actually manufactured in China, right? But we go along with the trend of the world, and sometimes we not too much like the trend, so we may not go along with it. But most young people actually want to feel part of the crowd. They want to feel part of the whole vibes. And we will, if it's 3/4 is the vibes, well, 3/4 pants it is, you know. And then it's all about, for the ladies, the cosmetics, what is going on now, what kind of brand for the, we call it the foundation powder. I don't have one none, so I won't know, right? But the fact is, we young people go according to brands and trends. So then what's trending now? Vaccines is trending now. But wait, vaccines actually have brands now, right? Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. We could choose these brands. But for some strange reason, even though it's trending, even though it's brands, we young people are kind of skeptical because we're not accustomed seeing our health in a brand trending kind of issue, right? So let me bring in right now Khalifa. Khalifa, how are you there?
Hi everybody, I'm okay. Thanks, Brent.
So talking about brand, tell me, if we young people had to choose a brand of vaccine, right? According to the science, which brand might suit our young bodies more, in your knowledge?
I think you need to be kind of careful when you're talking about brand names like luxury items and when you're talking about vaccines, because it's two completely different things.
Yes.
And I think it's like it's a life and death thing here. It's not where I could just throw on a Nike t-shirt because that look better than, I don't know, an Adidas one. Don't come at me for choosing between the brands, right? But I think you need to look at our climate. Remember, we're a tropical country, opposed to other countries that would have developed the vaccines. Remember, we're a developing country, so that is going to influence which vaccines we can buy and which are made available to us as well.
So therefore, not all the brands are available to us. That's what you're saying now.
I'm saying our budget may not make all of these things available, and sometimes it makes sense to go with what makes sense based on where we are. So if you're talking about, so mainly we have, let's run it through, right? Mainly we have, let's say, 4 well-known ones, right? We have Pfizer, we have Moderna, we have Johnson & Johnson, and we have AstraZeneca, and we have Sinopharm. All right, 5, all right? Remember, we have Sputnik, and there are a lot more, but we'll call the main ones that we're working with, right? That everybody's saying about, everybody knows. So Pfizer and Moderna, they are mRNA based. All right, and we'll probably talk about it a little more later on so everybody could catch up on it. But because they have DNA in them, right, that means that they need to be kept at steady temperatures. All right, so you can't have any kind of fluctuations because then you'll degrade the DNA and it wouldn't make any sense using the vaccine. It wouldn't be as effective, right? But then we have AstraZeneca. And AstraZeneca is a vector vaccine. It still has some DNA particles from the vaccine, from the virus itself, but there's still a requirement of temperature because minus 2 to 8. Not minus 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. I think so. Don't quote me. I think I read it. And the very same thing goes for, but it doesn't go for this thing, the last one, Sinopharm, and that's what we're using. Everybody's using it now, right? It's the inactive vaccine. So temperature isn't really much of a, it plays a role, but it's not much of an issue. So the cheaper ones, or the ones that have been made available to most Caribbean countries, you all would know, is AstraZeneca and Sinopharm. And the cost plays a big role in terms of the quantity that we can get. It's a lot cheaper than the other two, being Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson.
So because it's those are the most popular one in the third world countries, I would say, right? Is it that because those are our choices and we can't afford to wait on what the first world countries are using?
I want to say yes, because if you look at, I don't want to bring risk in too much to this, but in my opinion, I think in everything that you take, in all medications that you take, there is risk assigned to it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that based on AstraZeneca, more so, there have been it's been talked about a lot, and I think the statistics kind of shows that chances are in women more so, less than under the age of 50, you have clotting, and everybody would have heard about it, clotting and thrombosis, and everybody knows about it. And they had this big uproar where a good bit of the European countries, they banned it or they put it on hold for a while, and I think it's still like that. So I feel like that speaks for itself, right? And I think that's when most people kind of began to become a bit hesitant about it. And it makes sense. I mean, come on, it's a rational way of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, in an article in iNews in England, they talk about young people also have more access to misinformation, right? Because of the fact that because they have more access to digital platforms than older people who don't. The main source of information for older people is TV and newspapers, and the younger people is social media. So Dr. Bud is talking about, there could be misinformation and conspiracy theories that is passing on social media that is bringing the fears to young people. So, Tia, you took the vaccine. I can't remember which one you took, but the fact is you had some fears and so on. Tell me the process of what you went through.
So I had to take the Sinopharm. I took it a couple of months ago when it first came in. And I actually was in a space where it was an unspoken rule that I had to take it. They say it's not mandatory, it's voluntary, but then it's actually an unspoken rule that you have to take it, right? So because we have employers who are now using their terms and conditions to influence your medical choice. And with a pandemic, you don't really want to say no in the fear of losing your job, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons that motivated me to take it. Also, I want to point out the fact that you said we have misinformation, which is correct. And I think one of the reasons why youths and young people move to misinformation is because we're more self-aware now. We're more aware of what's going around, what the world is about, social issues, and something like a vaccination in a pandemic where we had to experience it firsthand. I think that caused us to not blindly say okay to any vaccination.
Yeah.
And the more look to getting information, and that information would be misinformation. And I think that influenced a lot of young people. And it also had not misinformation, but the fact that we were influenced also had a great part to play, because once I posted on social media, I got vaccinated. I had about 4 friends who got vaccinated because I got vaccinated. So again, that influenced what we post or what we do as an individual or as a youth influences others. I think that also played a major part in why or how youths are viewing the vaccine now.
Well, in the analysis that happened in May, so that was right now we're in July. In May, let's take England and the US for instance. 1 in 8 young people in England, since it was available to those who are 30 and under, right, took the vaccine. Well, not 1 in 8. 1 in 8 actually refused to take the vaccine. In the US, 40% of the young people choose to take the vaccine. So therefore, 60% haven't get around in a way to persuade them to take the vaccines as well, you know. So, and here is Dr. Keith Rowley, our Prime Minister, talking about 2 days ago in a newspaper article, talking about the school reopening. And he says, if we were in a position like this in September, which is our current position, we will open our schools, even with the children not being vaccinated, right? He also said that Pfizer is the only COVID-19 vaccine which has been approved by the World Health Organization. So it's like that article right there, I mean, he was like kind of contradicting himself in a way. And Khalifa, do you have any thoughts to that last statement I said based on the Prime Minister?
Yes, I do. And this is strictly my opinion. And I think everybody is trying to do the best that they could given the situation in the pandemic. Every leader, I think, sees a lot more details than the average citizen would. So they know the intricacies of everything that's going to happen. So him saying that, I want to believe that it's based on knowledge that we don't have. Because I think it's a bit unsafe to introduce children into an environment that's that volatile. And vaccination it does bring a balance to it. But yeah, I think I want to believe that it's more based on restarting things and for the mental health of young people, as well as this is something that we're going to have to live with, and we need to begin to find ways to work around it. And that's just it. Yeah.
So it come like whether or not, once things doesn't get worse, we are going to open school and find a way, meaning work out things from there on. That's what I'm hearing.
That has been the world's chorus. And I want to believe that it's not something that has been decided on in a very laissez-faire manner. I don't think that's the case, because if you look at the trend throughout the entire pandemic, I don't think the government has made decisions in a laissez-faire kind of manner. I don't think that hasn't been the case. So no. I
remember back then, President Trump was so strong on school reopening, right? And even though thousands were dying daily, he was still saying, we are going to open back up the schools. And there was some cheering him on. There was some kind of, I don't think that is a good idea, you know. But now that vaccines are spreading throughout the world per se, a lot of countries are opening back up and moving along and trying to get back their lives, their precious lives back on stream, right? And Tia, sorry, did I call you Tiana?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a friend named Tiana, so Tia and Tiana, right? But Tia, do you think we as young people would ever get back that normal way of life?
I don't think we would. I think normalcy is now questionable. We so in tune with, I mean, we online, yes, we crave interaction now that we online. And I think we would be faced with a lot of mental issues, like anxiety and stuff, going back into the place of normal, because even we wouldn't get it back, but we would try to make our own version of normal moving forward now.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would ever get it back. Especially children who would have now entered primary school online, and even secondary school online. And some started entering Form 1 when the pandemic hit, and now they're into Form 3. So they're not gonna get. I started UE at the start of no, like second year into the pandemic, and I'm finishing UE, and the pandemic is still going. So I actually missed most of my university experience because of the pandemic. So I don't think we would ever get back that normal place, but we would have to create a new form of normal. I think it would actually include a great part of being digitalized. I don't think we would ever go back to pen and paper, so to speak.
That's difficult. That's difficult.
Normal is going to be,
because I've seen the students and teachers have been struggling with online exams. They have been struggling with online exams because they're trying to wrap their mind around it. And some people love it, and it has some young people who don't love it. But coming back to a point before, which is the fears of young people towards being vaccinated. There are young people who thinking, especially young people who just got married. They're thinking, hey, I want to be fertile. I don't want to take a vaccine and then I can't have children, or it have an issue. Or they might think, I am too young. Next thing, this injection cause some kind of health issue that will cause me to live the rest of my life in danger. And these are some of the few, or some of the many fears, I should say, that young people cross in my mind. For myself, I thinking, if I take what is available now in Trinidad, I may not be able to travel because some other first world countries are not allowing certain, or they're not recognizing certain vaccines, right? So it's a little bit of many fears that is just passing through. And Khalifa, lastly, what would you say to that young person out there who is facing many fears, many thoughts, many misinformation, or information, I should say, because everybody have their own choice. Everybody have their own choice. But as Tia said earlier, the government is putting things in a certain way. And I'm not just talking about Trinidad, but I'm talking about the world. The system is putting things in a certain way that they are encouraging young people to have no choice but to take the vaccines, just like how you say now, hey, you have to take it before you come back to school, right? So what advice would you have for the young people, Khalifa?
I'm not going to lie. I know that a lot of the fears are influenced by misinformation. And I think as much as we're a generation that is flooded with information, and I think most of us could sift out what's making sense and what isn't making sense. I think there are times that the nonsense can seep through, and it's put together so nicely that it looks like sense.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's a verse that says, "In all your ways, acknowledge Him," and this is referring to God, and He will direct your path. And me having fears of my own, I have took to praying, and I don't want to, as a Christian, I don't think that anything that you should do should be excluded from God. Every aspect of your life should be influenced by God. Your health is one of them. So the very same way I would pray about something for school is the very same way I should pray about something for my health. And I know that not a lot of people will probably share the same opinion, but as far as it goes for me, that is what I have been doing. And I can encourage people to make informed decisions. Read up. I mean, there are research papers. Make sure it's accredited or peer reviewed so that you can make a decision that is well informed. And yeah, this too will pass. it's not going to last forever. And I think humans, we are very we learn to adapt. And this too is something that in the history of humanity we will learn to adapt to. And we grow and we move on. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you, Khalifa. And what you said there is truth. Focus on your faith, on God, on that He would guide you in the right aspect or into the right area. And Tia, lastly, I started off talking about brands and trends. And this sort of trend that is happening right now is not to be taken lightly. So, Tia, you are a witness of what you have taken, and so far so good, right? So far so good. And what is your thoughts or your advice for young people?
My advice to young people, I can't tell anybody to actually get vaccinated. I could only encourage. But for you personally, as an individual, a young person, I would suggest that you look for credible sources like Ministry of Health, their website, do your own research, on actual accredited sites. And speaking to Trinidad Youth, we have youth councils. We have Trinidad Youth Council, which I'm a part of, and we actually distribute a lot of information surrounding the vaccine. And
question is accredited sites Facebook, Instagram?
No, actual sites such as the World Health Organization site, sites like that, or articles that we would recognize, right? Scholarly articles, right? And base your influence or your judgment of what you read and what you understand. And again, be objective to the situation. Yes, you want the best for your health, and in the groups that I'm in, we try to promote that all vaccines, yes, come branded, but the one available to you would be the one that you would have to take, right? Because let's say you wait, and then within the period of waiting, you get affected.
Yeah.
Right? So the one available to you would be your best option, right? And yes, I would like to encourage young people to take the vaccination. We have to move forward. Entering schools now, we have a lot of, I don't want to take it while they're making it mandatory. But when I was in primary school, I got vaccinated in the school library, and I have up to this day no idea what I got vaccinated for on that day. Right? So actually vaccinations was here and mandatory for school a long time. Now we get primary school, but university as well.
Yeah.
And I stick to accredited sources and look at where we've been in the history of vaccination to now. Right? And the longer we take, the more it will mutate. Right? So I would encourage young people to get vaccinated, but also inform themselves as well.
All right. Guys, I thank you all for passing through, right? On the Beat podcast, I thank you all for spreading your knowledge, and I hope that the young people out there would hear and take heed to make sure and seek the right guidance for these so-called trends, right? Of taking vaccine or not taking vaccine, because it comes down to your choice as well, right? So I hope that everything works out fine for them. And It's all about your health. It's all about moving forward. Don't move forward carelessly. Move forward with wisdom, all right? And don't be in haste as well in moving forward, thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do this. No, take a deep breath, put away the anxiety, and, relax yourself and take all the right information, the valid information, and put it on the table. Look at the pros and cons and take it in. So I want to thank Tia for coming in. I want to thank Khalifa for coming in. And guys, we will link up in the future. And I hope all the things that you all are seeking right now comes to pass, right? So peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to On the Beat podcast. Feel free to share, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay blessed, everyone.